Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is Dr. Antoine, your coach in data analysis using R2. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can perform correlation analysis using R2. Correlation analysis is used when you want to analyze the association or the relationship between two variables. Correlation coefficient is between -1 and 1. What is the research question when you use correlation? Your research question is, what is the relationship between variable 1 and variable 2? Suppose that you want to analyze the relationship between the motivation and wages and salaries. The research question in that case may be, what is the relationship between salary and motivation? And what is the objective of your study when you use correlation? The objective of the study is to find the relationship between salary and motivation. Or when you want to analyze the relationship between FDI or foreign direct investment and GDP or gross domestic product, your research objective is to find the relationship between foreign direct investment and the gross domestic product. And what may be a hypothesis that you wanted to test when you use correlation? In our example of relationship between motivation and the salary or foreign direct investment and the GDP, the null hypothesis may be there is no relationship between motivation and the salary, or there is no relationship between foreign direct investment and gross domestic product. The alternative hypothesis is that there is a relationship between motivation and the salary, or there is a relationship between gross domestic product and the foreign direct investment. However, when you want to perform correlation analysis, you must find theory or prior studies that support that kind of relationship. The theory may indicate or may show how this kind of relationship occurs. When you do not have any theory or prior study, the results you get or the coefficient of correlation you get may be what we call spurious correlation coefficient or false coefficient of correlation. It is better, before you perform any analysis, to have your theory or prior studies that allows you to state your hypotheses. Now, I'm going to show you how you can perform this kind of correlation according to your data, because we have two kinds of correlation. There is Pearson correlation, which is normally used when your data are normally distributed. That is what we call parametric test. And we have spearman correlation or Kendall correlation, which is used when your data is not normally distributed. What is the advantage of calculating correlation before any analysis or before you continue with other analysis? Correlation, when you find that a variable are correlated or are related, this may be an indication that one variable can be used to predict another variable. In that case, you can perform regression analysis. Another advantage is that when you found that variables are correlated, that may indicate what we call mediation. You can perform mediation analysis. This means you can analyze how one variable has influence on another variable through or via a mediator variable. This means you analyze how one variable can influence a fed variable through the second variable, what we call mediation analysis. Third advantage is that when you have that your variable are highly correlated, it can avoid you to make a mistake of multicollinearity when you are performing multiple regression analysis. Multicollinearity is an issue in multiple regression analysis because you are using variables which are highly correlated. And this can be seen when you perform correlation analysis. When there is multicollinearity, the estimates are biased because Information which can be found in one variable is another variable, which may be an issue in your results. That's why it is better to calculate correlation analysis before. For instance, when there is no relationship between variables, you cannot perform regression analysis because one variable cannot influence and cannot have any influence when they are not on another variable when they are not related. That's why it is better when you find that variable are correlated. It is better to perform, for instance, regression or mediation. Okay, now we will import our data. This is the command for importing our data. This one, we save our data in correlation. Okay, now we install this library so as to make some selections and to analyze also missing data. Now you see the result here of missing value. Now we delete missing value, this comment. Now this library we install it so as to make a visualization of normality. Now we test for normality so as to know if we use a parametric test, which is a Pearson correlation, or non-parametric test. This is Shapiro test. We have seen it in normality test. Now you see now the p-value is less than 5% here. That this means that our data is not normally distributed. This is GDP for 2020. And when we check this with graphic visualization, you can see here now there are some observations which deviate from this line, indicating that our data are not normally distributed. Let's check normality for FDI. This is the comment. This one. Now you see now the result, the p-value is less than 5%, indicating that the data are not normally distributed. When I test for graphically, now you can see here, it is the same here. Now you see FDI, you see some observations which should deviate from this line. Let's check for export. Shapiro for export. Now you see now the p-value is less than 5%. This is the result, indicating that our data is not normally distributed. Now this graphically, check graphically. You see now it is the same. You see now there are some observations which deviate from this line, this one. Okay, now as the data are not normally distributed, you can use parametric tests. Now we use spearman correlation, which is non-parametric test, which has no assumption on data normality. Now you can see here the correlation between GDP and the FDI is significant, 0.07. Okay, if the data were normally distributed, we would have used this Pearson method. Now when the correlation, you see it is very highly correlated, 0.9. Now we check a correlation between GDP and export. This comment, GDP and export, we just want to see it. Now you see the correlation is very high. This is the results. If data were normally distributed, we would use Pearson correlation coefficient, which is also very high, 0.97. It's like the same result. And when you have to conduct a correlation matrix, now you can use this comment. This comment minus this one, minus 1, we want to delete the first column with the countries because they are not numerical, it is categorical. Okay, now we can, let's see these comments. Sorry, I don't know what happened here. Maybe it is this comment, this one allowance, which is causing problems. have to add this comment. Okay, now you see the correlation matrix here. We get same result. You see here now our result here. This is a correlation between the GDP and the GDP, which is 1 here. FDI and GDP and FDI, this is the result. FDI and export. FDI and GDP here, and export here. Export and GDP here. Export and FDI is here, and so on. Now, if our data were normally distributed, we would have tested for significance of the coefficient. That means to check whether our coefficient is significantly different from 0. This is the comment, this one. If our data were normally distributed, this is the result. The p-value is here because the null hypothesis is that the correlation coefficient is not significantly different from 0, which is rejected. This means our coefficient is statistically different from 0. This is, you can test also this one. Now you see here the p-value. We rejected the null hypothesis that our coefficient is not significantly different from 0. Okay, guys. Now, when I try to move, to remind you, when to use correlation, I say that we use correlation when we want to find a relationship between two variables, and the research question is what is the relationship between, for instance, FDI and the GDP. Objective of the study or of the research is to find the relationship between GDP and FDI. Hypothesis, null hypothesis, there is no relationship between FDI and the GDP. Alternative is there is a relation between FDI and the GDP. Now, as I said, hypotheses are formulated based on the theory or prior studies. In this presentation, we used the gross domestic product and foreign direct investment and export. Data were collected on World Bank indicator websites. Okay, guys, I think you like. Okay, guys, this is the end of my presentation on correlation analysis. We have seen where we can use correlation, in which case we can use correlation analysis. We have presented the procedures of performing correlation analysis. If you like this video, you can share it, and you can also subscribe to my channel, because I will continue to share some videos, including how you can perform other statistical tests. Thank you for having seen our video. Bye.